ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
Welcome into the Thursday, February 9th edition, The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. We are here until 6 o'clock, and then we're going to be here for the rest of the night because we got Marshall basketball coming up. The Thundering Herd taking on Coastal Carolina. So Marshall's in the Palmetto State. This is going to be the first time that the Herd's taking on Coastal Carolina on their home court. This is the rematch from last month. Marshall getting the victory earlier in the season. It was an 81-66 victory back on January 7th, so this should be a fun one. And it's already been a fun day for Dan D'Antoni if you've been keeping an eye on social media and if you've maybe been following along Dan's exploits. He talked about this on his show earlier this week. He went down to Socastee High School today. They had him down there. He got to see the court that was dedicated in his honor. Did some, visits down memory lane to kind of put a highlight on the day. So he's had some fun. And, of course, Dan was a longtime basketball coach at Socastee High School. And so they recently renamed it the Coach D Court in honor of their former head coach. So that was a great trip for Dan earlier today. So he'll have a lot to be smiling about before the tip-off. That's coming up tonight. We've got it for you here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. So we'll talk more about this game later on and throughout the night as I'm excited to do it with you. This is this is going to be, I think, a fun series. I get the feeling. Yeah, it was a tight game. Marshall winning, as I mentioned, 77-67. So this was a fun game. And I'm sorry, that was an 81-66 score. As I jumped ahead of my notes, so this was a fun one. 81-66. Marshall getting the victory. This is a team that's had some difficulty as of late. I'm not talking about Marshall. I'm talking about Coastal. Coastal's had some difficulties as of late. The team just hasn't been able to put it together. It's a good team. I think Coastal's a good team, but at the same time, they've had some difficulties just putting it together. They're led by one of the best coaches in the business right now with Cliff Ellis in his 16th year at Coastal Carolina. He has got a 293 and 217 record. Overall, he has a win percentage, and this is just Division I. This isn't all levels of basketball, just Division I. 827 wins, 554 losses. So the Thundering Herd going up against probably one of the more veteran coaches, and we saw what the first matchup looked like, and we will see that again coming up tonight. But Chanticleers have lost their last 5 games, including a 73-57 defeat against Arkansas State. That was definitely not the game I thought it would be. I thought to myself, if you can beat any team in this league, and I hate to say it, I think Arkansas State's that team that you should be able to, if you put it all together, you can beat. And Coastal could not do it. So I'm trying to figure out what is with them. What is it that they're not getting done? I mean, they're good at the free throw line. They have a really good rebounder. Issa Mustafa, he only trails Micah Hand-Logden in rebounding. So they have a pretty good rebounding core. You look at them statistically, and I know that doesn't tell the whole story, but you look at them statistically, they're 4-8 in conference right now. Complete mere flip of Marshall, which is 8-4. They're scoring points. They're putting up over 73 a contest. Their scoring defense is limiting teams to 71. Rounding up, 72. It's 71-9, so let's just round up, 72. And they are, I think, a team that can really get it done if, and I mean this, if it can put it back together because they've got wins over Louisiana, wins against Old Dominion, beat Appalachian State and South Alabama. So you've got wins there. So this is the start of the team's homestand. 4 games at home, and then final 2 will be on the road for Coastal. They are 0-2 in the month of February. They're going to try to flip that around here. So we'll break this one down a little bit further coming up. To give them credit, they are 3-6 in their last 9 games, but they've lost 5 in a row. So if they can turn it around, that should make things interesting down the stretch. For the Thundering Herd, Marshall comes into the contest with victories in 7 of its past 9 games, including, again, this is a team that, if you look at how it's lost, beating some really good teams on the way, losing to Louisiana Monroe in overtime. That game should not have been that. It should not have happened. And I think the game against James Madison, that was just, both teams weren't at full strength. We got a great contest. And again, going down to Georgia Southern, could have won that. So Marshall, really, if Marshall could have put it together a few times, Marshall should be undefeated in conference play. I know that's a big, bold statement, but if Marshall could have done a few things here or there and got out of foul trouble in a few situations, not got into that, hit some free throws, things like that, just little nitpicky things, I think Marshall's record would be way better because this is a team that's right now 19-6. And I know we're nitpicking it, a 19-6 record, 8-4 in Sun Belt play. But again, Marshall has wins over some of the better teams, including Southern Miss. And you got to go back and try to figure out how to do that when you get into tournament play. Because what's left of the Thundering Herd will be after tonight: Georgia State, Georgia Southern, Troy, at JMU, that'll be tough, and then at Old Dominion. So that's what's left for the Thundering Herd. Can Marshall get it turned around? We'll find out. But when we continue, we'll turn our attention to Marshall women's basketball because the women were in action earlier today. And if you were at the game, you know. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, it was the day they bring the kids in. And I don't know if you've ever been to one of those games where they bring the kids in. It was Education Day. And I think they should bring the kids in every game. I don't think you can play all the games at 11 a.m., but if you could, bring the kids in because they were loud. They were into it. It was a crazy atmosphere. And, of course, watching some of the kids. I like the kid today. If this is your son or this is your child, your child gave me a lot of laughs, putting the popcorn bucket on his head and dancing around crazily. That was fun to watch. The kids were into this thing, so you should have more of these. So Tony Kemper on the other side of the break. We'll talk to him about the victory today over Coastal Carolina when we continue on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
We're taking Paul Swann everywhere. Download or subscribe to The Drive with Paul Swann on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the February 9th edition of The Drive on ESPN. Early game today for Tony Kemper, and we appreciate him joining us on the program now as Marshall winning its 6th straight and doing it again in Marshall fashion, always wanting to make sure it's interesting for the fans. So, making sure that, and I think Tony Kemper did it by design. He's with us on the program now, making sure that Coastal Carolina led by 8 points in the fourth quarter just to make sure that everyone would stick around. Coach Kemper, yeah, I mean, is that your game plan? I don't want to expose you too much, but I think that's the game plan for you. You make sure that everyone sticks around, and then you take over the game and you win it. I mean, that's excellent coaching on your part. So congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point in time, that game plan's working. So it's not necessarily the way that I would like to do it, but they're showing a lot of toughness and they're showing a lot of ability to win games. And so our team's really doing a good job of that. Sometimes, today we played tough from the start. We didn't have any rough lapses like we've gone through in the last couple games. Coastal's a tough team. We had trouble with them down there, and so tight game throughout. They did get an 8-point lead in the fourth quarter that we kind of quickly flipped and went right back at them. So two even teams, and it ended up with a great win this afternoon.
Yeah, I never felt at any time that this game was a situation where you put yourself in a hole. Because basketball is a game of runs. Cliche as that may sound, it's true. Basketball is a game of runs, and I felt like, okay, they put their run on, they've got their points, and then you put your run on, and you were able to maintain control. I never felt at any time that this was a situation where you had a rough patch or your squad was out of control and you needed to calm them down or anything. It just felt like it was good basketball flow today.
Yeah, I think that's right. I thought that there was a couple stretches. I mean, that period where they did go up 8 right at the end of the second quarter, and I actually used the timeout. I haven't been using timeouts in the first half, but I definitely didn't want it to go to double digits, and I thought out of that timeout our team really responded well. And then, like you've already talked, the fourth quarter they did make a couple buckets, but even then it didn't feel like we were in a bad spot as long as we played good offense. They were playing zone at the time. We really had good ball movement, got some easy shots, and I think maybe it took, they went up by 8. We scored on the next possession to knock it to 6, and then maybe got a stop and took it right back down to 4. So we avoided those big droughts that maybe have been difficult for us to handle, and that made it, better down the stretch. And we needed it because that's a good team. We needed to be sharp in the fourth quarter.
Inside, it felt like it was a physical game too. Just watching it a little bit today, and it felt like your team handled that well. You definitely dominated the paint on them today. But did you feel that when you're in the heat of that, it was just getting a little physical? It felt like, I mean, not bad physical, but it just felt like they're a tough team, and you definitely matched them, throughout the game.
Yeah, Asia Blunt, their center, she's a really good player, and she finished with 18, and I feel like we did a pretty good job on her. I feel like Mo Matthews had a nice day, and I think Mo had 17 and Asia Blunt had 18. So, it is physical. I think this league, the more we're in it, there's a lot of big physical post players in this league. It's pretty fast-paced, but almost everybody has a 5 that they really play through, and so that's a little bit of a change from the league we were in, a year ago in the last couple of years. But that's an adjustment that, we're working through. And Mo Matthews is really a talented, especially on the defense end. And so I think that, you saw her really play well today on both ends of the floor, and it was needed.
Mo was definitely strong. Abby Beeman, 17 points. Rashayla Scott, 17 points. So, those are your 3 leading scorers in this one, but you got some good efforts from everyone else across the board. Mo got the double-double as well, 10 rebounds, 17 points. So it just wasn't one player today. It felt like really, everybody had an opportunity today to shine at one point.
Yeah, I mean, we're relying on a lot of players. I think we played 12 players today, and they're all really important. They do a lot of different things well. We have multiple different skill sets that are required, and I like our depth. I've said that all year, and you can kind of see us growing here down the stretch. But we are kind of we're pretty set at those 3 positions, meaning Roe, Abby, and Mo, and then we are getting really good contributions kind of in by committee at the other spots. And that's been the case all year.
Tony Kemper is with us. The Thundering Herd winning against Coastal Carolina 65-60. I don't know if you've looked at the standings. I did. And you're moving up there pretty well. You're on a 6-game win streak. There's not that much separation between you and the teams that are ahead of you. looking pretty good so far for down the stretch. Do you feel good going into the rest of the stretch? That maybe you can be in that conversation. Maybe not necessarily for the top spot, but right behind Troy. If Troy keeps doing what Troy does, you could be right behind them and feel pretty good, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think when you look at it, Troy's going to be – and Troy owns the tiebreaker on us anyway. So Troy's going to be really hard for us to catch. They basically have a 4-game lead on us with 4 games to play or 5 games to play. But you're right. Kind of the top end of it has really started to kind of come together. And it's going to do that even more so after tonight when you look at the game. I think Louisiana plays James Madison. Texas State, who we play on Saturday, that's a great team. They're at Southern Miss. So both of those teams are right there with us. There's going to be some more movement. And then I think when you look at us, the thing that's exciting is we control our destiny in that stuff. So the onus is going to be on us to play well and see where we can finish. We have a game with James Madison still. We have a game with Georgia Southern still. We have this game with Texas State coming up. So we do have some opportunities here to continue, going from where we were to where we want to be.
Tony Kemper is with us. Coastal Carolina falls to the Herd this afternoon, 65-60. We got to talk about that because you gave some people the heads up that they hadn't been involved in one of those games. It was Education Day. So the kids were there, and I wish you could bring them in every single game because, as I was talking about earlier, the one kid with the popcorn bucket on his head and he was dancing, they put on the TV screen, and a lot of those kids, that's some crazy energy for a basketball game. And
it was great.
Yeah, wasn't it? I'm sitting here hoping that you can just bottle that up and bring that in every single game. I mean, let's just do it. 11 a.m. basketball. We'll make it a thing.
Yeah, well, I've been saying, and I talked about it in the last press conference that we had. We've really had good crowds this year, and they've grown. Today was a great day. I saw a picture of some kid, and he had green face paint. He had some Marco horns. He was getting after it, and it was loud in there. And I call them screaming kids games, and as usual, Herd fans did not disappoint. We have them ready to go at a young age here, and they were great, and we needed their help.
I've seen that photo. It was, I believe it was Melissa Booten, one of the photographers for the game. She posted that. The kid had the green boa, the Ric Flair boa, the green T-shirt, the green. I guess their pants are short. He was painted green. Face was green with the M on his face. The Viking helmet there with the green and white and the green horns. Yeah, he understood the assignment, didn't he?
He understood well the assignment, and he nailed it. He was great.
You got to get his name, get him back there for the next game.
I don't disagree with that. That I was busy at the time, but I didn't see him live, So otherwise, if I'd have seen him, I might have tried to do that. But we shifted. We got the pink game. We got the really a pink game benefit for KYAL on Saturday. That's a major event in women's basketball across the country. We do a great job of raising money to fight all forms of cancer, and Marshall's participating in that. And so we'll take those kids back, and we'll take all your listeners in there on Saturday wearing pink, cheering for the Herd.
Why is that game important for you?
Well, I just think, obviously, there's so many of us, almost everyone has been affected by cancer on some level. And then, I don't know, I can't quote the number of years and this and that, but obviously this game has taken on major importance to the women's basketball game. It's really something that we do every year, and across the country it's done really well. And so here at Marshall, I know we've participated in it for the 11 years that we've been here, or that I've been a part of our program, and it's just a really important day. And our team is always really excited to put on the new pink shoes and really get after it for what is a great cause.
Do you have to set it up yearly? Do you have to explain it to the players that have not been through it, or is it at the point now where you don't have to set it up, they know and they circle it?
They know the pink game's coming up. They always ask when it's going to be, and we as a university we do try to kind of change up what we do every year to try to make an impact. So there is some conversations with our marketing team and stuff like that about the things we're going to get done, and we're going to shoot a quick little video tomorrow that talks about maybe how we've been affected individually by cancer, and you can donate, be a part of it in the game. There's online, you can go in, and per May 3 you can make a donation, I think, of $3, $5, or $10. That Sandra and I got involved in that as soon as they announced it, and we would like to write a good sized check from Marshall back to KYAL.
Tony Kemper is my guest. The Herd in action on Saturday. So you have, how much more time can you enjoy this one before you're right back at it?
Well, Southern Miss, Texas State tips at 6 o'clock. So I like to cook a little bit, Paul. That's kind of I don't have a lot of hobbies. I chase my kids, you know that. We run them everywhere. And then I like to cook, so I think we're going to enjoy some. My parents are out here. They came from Kansas for this 4-game homestand, and so we're going to do a little grilling, and we're going to start to watch. We already have Texas State prepared, but hopefully we get confirmation that we know what we think they're going to do at this 6 o'clock tip.
You don't have a favorite in this, right? Both these teams are ahead of you in the standing, so this is one you just watch, right? You're not gaming this a little bit, saying, okay, now if Texas State loses or Southern Miss loses, you're not at that point yet gaming this, are you?
Well, I might have a favorite, but I'm not. We're not going to give anyone bulletin board material. We got to go see them all in Pensacola. So I think if you kind of look at standings, sometimes you can figure out, well, it might help us a little bit if they win that. But obviously, we're all bunched up, and so it's more important for us to figure out what we think they're going to do, and then find a way to play well Saturday.
Tony Kemper, he's my guest. Have fun tonight, cooking out, doing what you do, and then we'll hopefully be talking about another victory here soon with you.
We're trying to get this done Saturday, Paul, and then we got to watch my guy Patrick Mahomes, man.
I haven't brought that up the last couple of pressers only because I know others have and they've done it poorly. So I've been trying to not do that. If you bring it up, it's fair. It's fair game. So just so you know.
I mean, you're in the AFC's corner, right? I mean, once we knock Joe Burrow out, you came on board with the Chiefs, right?
I'm gonna have to. It pains me because the pain's still there. But I mean, do I take you? Do I take you and root for you, or do I root for my friend Luke Creasy from the Herald Dispatch?
No, don't worry about Creasy. He's fine. Don't worry about Luke at all.
Okay, so I'm not worrying about Luke at all. He's fine. He's
fine, yeah.
All right. Okay.
There's plenty of room on the Chiefs bandwagon. We got a whole bunch of room for Patrick Mahomes, guys. So you can jump on board for one Sunday. And like I said, if we get this Texas State game, we play well in that, it's going to be a good weekend.
Well, I'll talk to our esteemed friend Bill Cornwell tomorrow about this, because Bill usually roots for the winner. So I'm gonna have to ask him how to go about this. But all right, AFC all the way, right? AFC, it's a brotherhood.
That's right.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
All right.
I was for you guys last year quietly.
Well, now I have to root for you, Tony.
I appreciate it.
Now I have to, because now I need to see you happy. I need to see you, I need to come to the presser on Tuesday and you sporting your Kansas City Chiefs stuff. Will you do that?
I don't. To be honest, I don't have any Chiefs stuff. I mean, I'm all Marshall. I mean, if you slice me open, I've been here long enough. It's green in there.
Okay.
So there's no Chiefs stuff in my closet. It's all Herd gear.
So once they win the Super Bowl, you're going to have some new Chiefs gear ordered, right?
Well, I didn't buy anything when we won the last one, so you don't mess with mess with things that are going well.
Okay. All right. That was similar to what I did because everyone was all excited ordering AFC North gear, AFC Championship gear, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait till the Super Bowl, see what happens.
Wait it out.
Yeah, so now I don't have these AFC North or AFC Championship shirts that are only good for a year.
Yep, I'm with you.
Tony Kemper, have fun Saturday, have fun Sunday, and I'll see you sooner than later. And let's be talking about some victories here together soon.
Yeah, let's keep it rolling. I appreciate you having me on, and we look forward to having a lot of people there Saturday.
Looking forward to it. Tony Kemper, my guest, the head coach of the Marshall women's basketball team. Thundering Herd getting the victory over Coastal Carolina, 65-60. We will get your text in. Let's do that. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. More coming up on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to the Thursday, February 9th edition, The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to get your text in just a few minutes. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. And keep that number handy because we're going to go to it tonight after, hopefully, a Thundering Herd victory with our post-game show. That comes up after every single Marshall broadcast. We do it right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Also on 93.7 The Dog. So I'm looking forward to talking to you tonight. And hopefully we're talking about a Marshall victory here over Coastal Carolina. So that is the assignment tonight for the Marshall men's basketball team going up against this Coastal Carolina team that has struggled as of late, losing 5 straight, including the last 2 at, let's just say, you lose to Louisiana Monroe, and that's fine. I like that team. I thought they played well against Marshall. Arkansas State, though, yeah, no, Arkansas State gave the Herd fits, but I still thought that Marshall didn't perform as well in that game as it could have. It had to go to overtime. And yes, so I have to give Arkansas State respect, but I would think Coastal could beat Arkansas State. Coastal's got a great opportunity, though, to try to turn it around. 4 straight at home against Marshall, then James Madison, and then Georgia State and Texas State before the final 2, which will then be at Georgia Southern, at Troy, and then we'll find out where everybody's at in the Sun Belt tournament. And the key for Marshall here is to stay in the top 4. If Marshall can stay in the top 4, it's going to be an easier time at the tournament. Because if you can stay in the top 4, you're going to play in the quarterfinals. The way this bracket, and it's all over the place, you get to the quarterfinals if you're in the top 4. You want to do that. And then semifinals and championship coming up. Obviously, you don't want to play in that first round. I don't think Marshall's in any jeopardy of playing. Marshall's not just going to forget how to play basketball and tank here. So I'm not worried about that so much, but you get a couple of extra days here to get ready. And we've seen Marshall before. You have to start early and then run out of gas as it reaches close to the end of the tournament. So that's important for Marshall. On the other hand, Coastal's trying to just get back into a good spot, being 4-8. So Marshall 8-4, looking for its 20th win on the season. Southern Miss and Louisiana already with their 20th wins respectively, and Marshall, if it can put it together, here's the thing. I think, and I'm just looking at, and again, these are conference stats, and don't tell the whole story, but Marshall right now has the best offense in the conference. In conference games only, Marshall's averaging 79.2 a contest. This is conference games only. But Marshall in conference is ranked 12th in scoring defense. Marshall's giving up 70.1 a game. Marshall's got to flip that a little bit. Marshall's got to get somewhere, I think, in the middle to upper portion of this conference defensively, or at least start playing like. Now, Texas State's giving up 64-7. Marshall's giving up 70.1. It's not that much of a difference, but still, it's important. But Marshall has come down a little bit. And, the scoring margin for Marshall, even despite losing on the road, despite that, Marshall is winning games by over 9 points a contest. I would like to see that gap widen a little bit. If you're not going to be able to stop teams, I'd like to see you just be out there and scoring more points. I don't know. That sort of is the Dan D'Antoni way, right? Take the good shot if it's open. Take them often. Take them early. And I want to see the defense step up a little bit more. Be a little bit more consistent as well. Marshall right now, and again, these are conference stats only. Marshall is third in three-point field goal percentage in the league. 95 three-point shots made in conference play. Percentage is .342. I'd like to see that improve a little bit. And, of course, the other number I'd like to see improve is the free throw percentage. Marshall is 12th out of 14 teams in free throw percentage. And, again, these are conference numbers only. This isn't all games, but this is conference where I think it matters more. And Marshall has made 149 free throws, attempted 221. So it's a free throw percentage of .674. Southern Miss is hitting .753. So 75%. Coastal's hitting .733. So 73%. Don't put Coastal on the free throw line tonight if possible. And that's something I think is going to be key for the Thundering Herd. And the other number, and Marshall's a little bit better here. Field goal percentage defense. Marshall is 9th right now out of all conference teams. So if Marshall could play a little bit, and it goes back to my point a minute ago, if Marshall could just play a little bit more, as far as the defensive side is concerned. But, here's a number that Marshall in conference games has dropped a little bit. Marshall's coming in 5th in offensive rebounds. Marshall is 5th in defensive rebounds right now. Again, these are conference numbers only. And I'd like to see Marshall pick that up just a little bit more. Who's leading the way in scoring, though? Tavion Kinsey. Tavion, in conference games only, is averaging over 21 points a contest. Now, we saw Jordan Brown, how good he was. He is right at 20 a contest. And those are your two in conference games only 20-plus scorers. Tavion's having a pretty good year. By the way, speaking of Tavion, and we'll talk more about this in our pregame, I'd like to see him in these last few games really start to separate himself in the league, because overall he's the only Sun Belt player that's averaging 20 points per game or more overall. In conference, Jordan Brown's right behind him. But with Tavion getting a little of attention here, and he was named as one of the 10 semifinalists for the Jerry West Award, I want to see, hopefully, Tavion take it to the next level these last few games coming up, and then tournament time. If Tavion can have a signature performance or two, I think that'll go a long way for him, especially with the next step, of course, obviously being the association. I mean, it's too early to talk about that right now, but I want to see him really take it to the next level, start to assert himself even more, maybe take over a game because he's always consistent. For the most part, he's been consistent in every game. There have been a couple of lulls, but there haven't been bad lulls. Some foul trouble is a couple of spots here, but I want to see Tavion maybe step it up a little bit more, and maybe he's saving it, if that's possible. Yeah, saving that next step for the tournament. Getting ready for tournament play, because right now he's got to be the top guy for Player of the Year. It's going to go between him and Brown, and I don't have a vote in this matter. I don't know who has the votes, but I would hope that Tavion's going to be Player of the Year in the conference. We'll take your text, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. More coming up with this edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
We're wrapping up today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930, but stick it around. We've got more coming up. We'll transition here in just a moment to our pregame coverage. We'll also be on 93.7 The Dog as the Thundering Herd getting set to take on Coastal Carolina. As a reminder, we always go on an hour before tip-off. And if you want to follow the Herd wherever you're at, don't forget to download the app. We've got two options for you, and I recommend, if for Marshall games at all times, you want to get the 93.7 The Dog app, and just go to the App Store, search for 93.7 The Dog, and you can also go to the website and get the streaming app. You can go to our website, WRVC.com, and get the streaming app for our station, and you can have them both. But if you always want to be able to take Marshall basketball or Marshall football with you on the streaming app, if you're not near a radio, that's going to be the best way to do it. And again, I recommend always getting the 93.7 The Dog app first for Marshall games specifically, just because there are some times where we're going to have a conflict. There have been times where we've had a Bengals game and a Marshall game on at the same time, and so we're trying to make sure that we've got everything on the air. So get the app, 93.7 The Dog. Download that. You'll be able to listen to the game. You'll be able to listen to the post game, and pretty soon we're going to start taking your shout-outs in the post-game. So look for that on the app. It's a great way to interact. And, of course, we've got the text line that's going to be open for you as well during the post-game. So if you want to write that number down now or program it in your phone, you'll have it ready to go. It's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. So it's a great way to communicate with me, talk to me. And, of course, if you are on social media and you like following me that way, or you want to interact that way, that's your favorite platform, I've got choices for you. Find me on Twitter at Paul Swann. And also, we did this the other day, and I think we're going to do it again. We started a chat room. We've got a Drive with Paul Swann group. That's the title of it. It's the Drive with Paul Swann group on Facebook. You search that. Ask to be a member. We'll let you in. It's like a little private club, but you're invited. And then there's a group chat. We had a lot of people in that last time. We hope to have a lot more. And you can talk about the game with other Herd fans while the game's going on. I'll jump in there and have score updates and other things like that while I'm watching and following along as well. So go to Facebook, search the Drive with Paul Swann group, ask to be a member. We will let you in, and then you can join the chat and be a part of it with fellow Herd fans and talk about the game. It's pretty cool. So looking forward to doing that with you tonight. And of course, I'll be on Twitter as well. And wherever you're at, I even got I'm still trying some of these new apps. I've got the Mastodon. You remember when everyone was freaking out about, oh no, Twitter's going to go away? And all these new apps came up. I've got Mastodon. I think I've got Post.news. I did that. I signed up for that account. I got something called Co-host. I did that. And I don't think anything's going to beat the Twitter experience and the Facebook experience right now. And Instagram. I don't know how we could TikTok on the show. If I could get our show producer Jason Toy to do a video with me, we could do a lip sync dance video. That's the only way I'm going to do it. Jason, you do a lip sync dance video with me? Okay, he says yes. We're going to do it. That's not going to happen ever. That's going to do it for this edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Back with you in moments for Huntington Federal Savings Bank college basketball today. Don't forget, you can download the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. I would say good night, but it's just going to be talk to you in about 15, 20 seconds. So stick around. Huntington Federal Savings Bank college basketball today coming up next.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, your flagship home of the Marshall Thundering Herd and The Drive with Paul Swann, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
This is Huntington Federal Savings Bank College Basketball Today on 93.7 The Dog and ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Coming up, we'll get you ready for today's college basketball action with interviews, game breakdowns, scores, and more. Let's get you ready for tip-off. Here's Paul Swann.
Marshall University basketball team on the road to face Coastal Carolina tonight in a rematch from last month. Welcome into Huntington Federal Savings Bank college basketball. Today, I'm your host, Paul Swann. Marshall defeated Coastal Carolina early in the season. It was an 81-66 victory back on January 7th. That was the first time these two teams had ever met, both as Sun Belt members and overall. So Marshall leads this very young series 1-0. Hopefully it'll be 2-0 after tonight's contest. Marshall coming into the game 19-6, failing to get that 20th win after losing to Louisiana. Team's now 8-4 in Sun Belt play. Coastal Carolina's 10-14 and has struggled as of late, 4-8 in Sun Belt play. This is a team that has lost its last 5. The last game for Coastal was a 73-57 defeat against Arkansas. Step 15 turnovers in that game for the Chants. That resulted in 19 Red Wolves points, and that was a big reason why that the Chanticleers were unable to beat Arkansas State, losing that game. So the Thundering Herd on the road tonight. This is going to be actually familiar ground for the Thundering Herd. As we know, West Virginia, definitely a pipeline into South Carolina, especially Myrtle Beach. We know how Herd fans love going to South Carolina. And there's some history here. Dan D'Antoni, former high school coach at Socastee High School, made the trip earlier today, going back to his former place of employment. This is the first time he's seen the court, I believe, in person. First time he's seen the court that was dedicated in his honor. And he was there. He was taking in some of the memorabilia. There were a lot of pictures of past exploits, of course, with him being a coach. And he was taking it all in today. So I'm sure he's definitely full of smiles as he got to go back to Socastee High School. They recently named the court Coach D Court in honor of Coach Dan D'Antoni. So that's a huge honor for him, as he is a long-time coach at Socastee High School. Now the Thundering Herd going up against one of the better coaches overall in his 16th year at Coastal Carolina and 45 years overall, Cliff Ellis. Now, he's 293 and 217 at Coastal, but in his career, and this is just Division I, this isn't his entire career. Division I only, he is 827 and 554. If you look at all wins, and it doesn't matter division, if you just look at all wins, he is up there with some of the best. I'm talking Bob Huggins, I'm talking Boeheim. These are some of the names that are pretty high up there. But if you look at overall, not just games at Division I, but overall coaching career, you look at his coaching record, and he is among the leaders. Just to kind of give you an idea of how this breaks down. Of course, he was the coach at Cumberland for a few years in the 70s, and then made his way to South Alabama, and then, of course, Clemson and Auburn before ending up at Coastal Carolina. He has 905 wins, and this is among Division I active coaches right now. He is third on the list. Jim Boeheim has 1,003 wins, and that does not include the wins that were vacated by the NCAA. And Bob Huggins has 930 wins. So Ellis is right up there with the best. And so he's definitely going to be ready to go for this one tonight. Dan D'Antoni, I'm sure, is going to be ready to go, especially with a lot of people going down for the trip, a lot of people coming in that are still big Dan D'Antoni fans in the area. So this will be a fun one tonight to watch and listen to, and we've got it for you right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. So we'll talk about this one further. We'll get your text in, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. What are you looking for tonight in this contest between Marshall and Coastal Carolina? What do you want to see from the Thundering Herd as Marshall is trying to rebound after a loss to Louisiana? Can the Thundering Herd get it done? We'll find out tonight, and we'll take your text, and we'll break this one down further when we continue on this edition of Huntington Federal Savings Bank College Basketball Today.
We're getting you ready for tip-off. This is Huntington Federal Savings Bank College Basketball Today.
Marshall's in Myrtle Beach for tonight's contest between the Thundering Herd and Coastal Carolina. Marshall leading the series, young series, 1-0. Welcome back to Huntington Federal Savings Bank College Basketball Today. I'm your host, Paul Swann. If you just joined us, Marshall is facing an opponent tonight that has lost its last 5 games. The last time out, lost to Arkansas State 73-57. Now, some of the things that Coastal Carolina does well tonight, rebounding should be a fun battle tonight. Isam Mustafa. He has 236 total rebounds in conference. He is trailing Micah Hanlogden, who has 263. Mustafa, though, leads the Sun Belt Conference in double-doubles. So that's going to be a battle tonight to see if it'll be Hanlogden getting another double-double or Mustafa. Probably both. It will be fun to watch that battle. Marshall coming into tonight's contest with victories in 7 of the past 9 games. And you look at the standings, I don't know if Marshall's going to be able to catch up with Southern Miss, but Marshall does have a victory over Southern Miss, and there are a few games to go. So Marshall needing to stay in at least the top 4. If you're looking at the Sun Belt bracket, you want to be in the top 4. That's going to be the best place to be for seeding. Tavion Kinsey leading the way for the Thundering Herd, averaging 21.4 points a contest, and he leads the conference in scoring. And, of course, Micah Hanlogden, he is making a case for himself for being the best rookie in the league. Now, he has 8 double-doubles. That's not leading the Sun Belt, but it's close. Second place. And he's also bringing in over 10 rebounds a contest. And he is right under double-digit scoring. He is at 8.3 a game. So if he has another outstanding game tonight, and I hope he does, and Tavion Kinsey can continue to do what he does, then we're going to turn our attention to hoping that Camden Kerfman can have a better performance. He's averaging 12 on the season. And Andrew Taylor, he is almost at 19 points a contest. I'm hoping we can see him reach the 20-plus plateau, or at least reach that, be right up there with Tavion Kinsey. That would be good tonight. Something else that I'm hoping we see tonight from the Thundering Herd, and it's going to be one of the keys to victory, is foul trouble. Marshall's going to have to stay out of foul trouble. We repeat these, but some of the easiest things that Marshall can do to make sure that it stays in ball games is to stay in ball games. So try to eliminate some of the things that, now some of the fouls have been ticky-tacky, some of them have been legit, but Marshall's got to try to eliminate as much as possible those lapses where the Herd picks up a couple of quick fouls and then you got to shuffle your lineup a little bit. And that's going to be key tonight. Marshall has got to win the battle rebounding tonight against Coastal Carolina. That's just going to happen tonight against this squad. So we're going to have to see a tightening up a little bit of just the silly things. We're also going to have to see, Thundering Herd just be a little bit more aggressive rebounding tonight. And let's hope the shooting is on. So those are some of the things you got to keep an eye on for this. We'll take a rundown of what's happening in the Sun Belt when we continue. We've got the scoreboard as well. Get you updated on all the action when we continue with this edition of Huntington Federal Savings Bank College Basketball Today.
Remember those wonderful evenings in front of the old wood-burning fireplace? Recapture those memories and share them with your family. Now you can have the fireplace you long for, and it requires no chimney or masonry, no wood to cut, haul, or stack, and no mess. Enjoy all the warmth, atmosphere, and charm with Empire Hearth vent-free gas fireplaces and fireplace logs. Available at Mutual Wholesalers, 710 5th Street, Huntington. Phone 304-525-9118.
The timeout is over. This is Huntington Federal Savings Bank College Basketball Today.
Our text line throughout the night is going to be 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. From our text line, Paul, Marshall is going to have to abstain from missing 10 and 15 three-pointers in a game. That is as crucial as missing foul shots. I agree. Better shot selection. And again, there have been times where I've questioned some of the shot selection. Now, if you're telling me that Obina Anachili-Killen has to take three-point shots, that's fine. I'll respect it, but he's also got to hit it to have other players on the opposing team respect it. Also from our text line, when the Herd has missed 5 three-pointers collectively, the three-point line obviously is a big issue for you guys out there tonight. When the Herd has missed 5 three-pointers collectively as a team in a row, they need to go inside and try to get two clients and possibly an annual, but they have to stay close in the games with respect to scoring. Okay, that's I like how you put that. Let's take a look at what's happening in the Sun Belt here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930 and on 93.7 The Dog. We've got some big games tonight to tell you about. And if you're keeping an eye on standings, the first thing you need to know is that it's a 2-team race right now for the top spot between Southern Miss and Louisiana. So that's where a lot of eyes are going to be tonight in Sun Belt play, because it just so happens that tonight that's going to get cleared up a little bit. You've got a top matchup in conference between the two very best teams right now, Louisiana and Southern Miss. That's at 8:30 tonight. And one of those teams will fall to second. Now, if you are looking at how these teams stack up nationally, how much respect that both these teams are getting, 3 Sun Belt Conference teams are in the top 15 in the most recent collegeinsiders.com mid-major top 25 poll, and Louisiana's ranked 3rd, highest ranking of the season. Southern Miss is 6th, and Marshall is 12th. James Madison's also receiving votes. And, of course, you look at the net also. This is a big one tonight because Southern Miss is number 59 in the net. Marshall is number 75. James Madison is number 84, and Louisiana is 85th. So Louisiana would benefit more than Southern Miss. Southern Miss, however, would still like to just win. So that's going to be an interesting one tonight. Also, other matchups, and it's going to shape up to be, I think, a competitive night across the board. James Madison taking on Georgia Southern. Old Dominion's taking on Georgia State. App State's taking on Louisiana Monroe. Arkansas State's taking on Texas State. And South Alabama is facing off against Troy. We got to take our final break, come back. We will wrap this one up. Marshall taking on Coastal Carolina. You can listen to the game here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930 and 93.7 The Dog.
Let's get ready for tip-off. This is Huntington Federal Savings Bank College Basketball Today.
Marshall's in action tonight, taking on Coastal Carolina. We've got the game for you here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930 and on 93.7 The Dog. And after the game, don't forget to stick around. We've got our post-game show coming up. It's Michelob Ultra College Basketball Wrap-Up. That's where we'll take your texts, your phone calls. We'll have post-game reaction from Dan D'Antoni. Hopefully it's a Marshall victory. If not, we'll talk about it with you. And, of course, you can text in the program anytime at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter writes in, says, oops, I'm sorry. Marshall needs to abstain from missing 10 and 15 three-pointers. Go inside, try to get 2 points, and an and one. So we do take text corrections, and you can text anytime during the post-game. We will be here for you after, hopefully, a Marshall victory. For our outstanding producer tonight, Jason Toy, I appreciate him. I'm Paul Swann. This has been Huntington Federal Savings Bank College Basketball Today. Stay tuned. The game broadcast coming up next with Steve Cotton. And then after the game, join us for Michelob Ultra College Basketball Wrap-Up. Until then, enjoy the game, everyone.
This has been Huntington Federal Savings Bank College Basketball Today. Join us after the game for Michelob Ultra College Basketball Wrap-Up. As we break down today's games with stats, interviews from the locker room, your phone calls, and more. Marshall basketball is next on
WDGG FM, Ashland, Huntington, USA.
93.7 The Dog.
And WRVC AM and W231BS, Huntington.
ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.